Hey there, hope you're well. Welcome back to Verbose DevOps. Today I'm going to show you how to use one of the most popular command line tools in DevOps, and that's called JQ. So we're going to do a hands-on demo. Just before that, I want to show you on this page, you can see it's basically a command line JSON processor, so used commonly in many bash scripts. And another way to describe it is like sed for JSON data. You can slice, filter, map, transform data. So really super cool. Let's go and get hands-on. Now you just install this using your favorite package manager, just like anything else. You don't need to download a binary. The version number is not really critical in this, just get the latest one. So it says there I've already installed it, it's already the newest version, so that's great. So let's get straight into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example. We're going to curl an API. So open notify.org ISS, it's International Space Station, and you see we get that. Actually, what I'm going to do from now on is I'm going to make this silent, because later on we might end up getting some progress bars. So yeah, return does that JSON object. Now what we can do immediately, if we use JQ and we just use the default filter, which is a dot, then you'll see what happens. Oops, it didn't like that. Let me just go back. That was just a problem with the display. There we go. And there we go. It's prettified the object. So my Linux system added the colors, but in general it's put things on new lines, indentation. So you can see that there are like 3 keys at the top level and 2 underneath position. So let's access some of those properties now, and if I just edit what we had before, but only changes, I'm just going to add here timestamp, and you can see, I'm just going to retry this because sometimes it's a bit slow. There you go, you can see it came out now with a timestamp. It's a very popular API, so I don't recommend that for doing all of your testing for sure. Look at this, let's try another one, not timestamp, but one of those that was embedded, so ISS underscore position, and all we do is we just say dot longitude, or whatever the subproperty is. Just Control C because it's not a very good API. And there you go, it came out. It's actually changed, you see that? It was 119, it's now 117. That's because the International Space Station, it moves so quickly. So what you can do as well is, let's say that any of these properties had some special characters in and you were getting errors, and something you can also do is just wrap that property in a double quote like that, and it will get it out no problem. So just something to be aware of. There you go, it came out eventually. Not the best API, but no worries, we're going to move on to other APIs now. So this is a cool API. It's actually a test API, and it's just got a list of universities around the world and some information like where they're based, the state, websites, that kind of thing. And it also accepts parameters. So for example, we're going to say the country of Vietnam. And there you go, it's come out. Actually, it's difficult to see, but it's actually, because it starts with this square brackets, then that's actually an object. No, sorry, not an object, it's actually an array of objects. I'll prove that to you. If I now pipe this through JQ, and remember this double single quotes, the dot, but now I'm going to put in opening and closing square brackets like that. So if I do that, it now comes back in more prettified format. And because there's only 2 universities in Vietnam, and I chose that specifically for the low number, we can see on the whole screen that there are 2 records inside that array. An array of 2 JSON objects. So, and we've prettified that, and what we can do now as well is, quite obviously, we can start to pick out some of these. So let's say I only wanted the name of these universities, and what we can do is we actually have to use the pipe here. So I'm going to show you here. We actually insert it not at the end, because we're not piping through bash, but we're piping as part of a JQ. So I'm going to put the pipe in there, and then I'm going to put in .name. And I'll clear the screen before I press enter. So that's what we're running. Remember, we just inserted .name, pipe.name, and there we go. We just get those. Now something else we can also do is, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back a step before we did that piping, and because I don't want to overload this API, I'm just going to put this into a file called vn.json. I think vn is the ISO code for Vietnam. And now what I can do is I can just say cat vn.json and put that through JQ instead. Or what you can also do instead is you can also go JQ, and then the file name can be at the end, like that. So that's another way. If you've already got a static file of how to use JQ, you don't have to pipe to it. You can just put the file name as a parameter, and we'll just do it like that from now on, because I don't want to overload the API. I might get rate limited or something like that. So what else can we do here? We already looked at the name. Let's just put it back like that. There you go. Now something you can also do with JQ is there is a switch -R, which means raw, and you see that it just gives you the raw info. It takes away those double quotes. So let's remind ourselves what was there. So I'm just going to get rid of name. Okay, so we had those two records. So let's say we wanted to extract web pages. Then you can probably guess that we just go .web_pages. I'll just click the screen and we can see that. Now, I don't know if you noticed from here or even earlier, but you got the square brackets again. So what that means is that that's actually an array. So there could be more than one website per university. So it's actually more correct if we do that, insert those, and then you see it comes out actually in a slightly different format. Now let me replay again to you the full records. Now what if we just wanted, for example, the name of the first record? And what you can actually do is, so if I replay back to name, you can actually use an index and you can say 0 or 1. So if I put in here a 0 for the first one, then we should get the first record back for Fan Chao University. So let me clear the screen, and there you go. And if I were to make this 1, then we get the other university. So that's pretty cool. Something else that you can also do, so if I, for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way back to here. I'm going to download Belgium, because I know that there's a lot more, there's many more universities for Belgium. And in fact, I'm only going to do a few queries, so I'm not going to resave the file. Let's just do this. And if I just demonstrate to you first of all these records, and there's several dozen, then let me clear the screen and replay that command. And what we're going to do is we're going to slice this, and we only want a few records from the top, half a dozen records. So remember that this is an array, but now what we do is we enter in here a slice 0 through 6, and if I do that, then you can see it's returned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 universities, and those are the ones that are at the top. So yeah, pretty cool. Now let me demonstrate to you some functions, and there are so many functions in JQ, and these are just a couple of simple ones. So I'm going to use another API. This is an API that gives information on US zip codes. Zippopotam. It sounds like hippopotamus, but it's for getting zip codes. So if I say, and you know, just like that TV show 90210, and you know what, I'm going to start by prettifying it right straight off the bat. So let's do the single quote with a dot in the middle. Then I get this. This is a JSON object, single object, with some information about the zip code, and as you can see, it's in Beverly Hills, so that's as expected. It turns out it's not fictional. And what we can do is we can use the keys function. So, and the way you do that is you put in a pipe, and then keys, and then enter. And what that has done is extract the keys, so postcode, country, country abbreviation, and places. It has reordered them alphabetically, as you might notice as well. And here's another function which is super interesting. So if I say length, then it returns 4. So that's basically the number of keys, not the actual keys, but just the number of them, if you wanted to know what they were. So, for example, you might wonder, what is the number of universities in Belgium? And so what you would do is you would say JQ dot pipe length, close a single quote, and oh no, we actually didn't save Belgium, so I was going to execute it on the file. So what I'll do is I'll just replay here Belgium, and we'll just modify this. We'll get this back to here. So what we need now is pipe and length, and we should get, there were several dozen, I remember. I'm just going to clear the screen. There were several dozen, so hopefully that will add up. And it says, yeah, 50 records. There were 50 universities in that list. So there's all kinds of other functions: search, select, map. Basically, it's like having, because Bash only supports lists natively, this using JQ in your Bash scripts, I'm curling APIs, but really you can use it to have your own JSON database, NoSQL database type functionality within Bash scripts. So super cool. You can clean data, all that kind of stuff. So those examples I gave earlier, like if I show you here, let's say you wanted to recreate this big array of JSON objects, and you are only interested in website and university name, and you wanted to get rid of everything else, then you could actually do that. So I'm going to show you an example of that later. So now let's move on to some examples. I'm going to show you AWS and Kubernetes. So I've already actually created a variable called bucket. So this is a sample bucket that I made just a few minutes ago, and I uploaded a bunch of documents into it just for our own example. So if I go AWS S3 LS, you should be able to see that. Yes, so that means that we're authenticated properly. We can use the AWS CLI. So I'm going to show you the objects now in here. So if I go AWS S3 API, list the objects, and the bucket is going to be the bucket I've already defined, so I don't have to retype that out. We want the output to be in JSON, and the CLI has a pager when you have a lot of information to page up and page down. We want to turn that off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to already use JQ to strip out something. So JQ, I'm just going to put the quotes in already, and what we're going to do now is we're going to use delete, I think that's a function, and we're going to say delete contents, and you can see that's an array, and under contents there is a value for owner, and I'm going to close that up. I'm going to press enter. and it should dump us a whole load of info. There we go. So previously, before this, there was here, you got key, last modified, e-tag, size, source class. There was another one called owner. And the reason I've deleted that before showing you this is because it had some sensitive information in. I didn't want to show you some of the info about the owner of the document. So yeah, it was kind of sensitive, so I just stripped that out. But anyway, we're still left with a key, which a key in an S3 bucket is the file name. You got modification day. Not sure what e-tag is. You got the size. They're actually all the same size, 101 bytes, I think that is. And you got the storage class. So what I'll do, so we don't have to just to make life a bit easier, I'm going to replay that command, but I'm going to put greater than, and we're going to call this files.json. So we can just use this from now on. And it should write that. Okay, great. Let's clear the screen. So now let's from that JSON data, let's do some interesting stuff. So here, I'm going to extract from here the file names, and if you remember, those file names were under contents and then key. So I'm not using the key function, but the key is actually a key in this JSON document. So there we go. We end up with a whole bunch of file names. These are actually different timestamps that when I created those files, and that's what we get there. And let's say, for example, I wanted to, remember I showed you slicing before, so we can do something like this. We can just say :3. Oops, that is not correct. Something wrong there. Oh, I know what that is. I just want to turn 3 records, and we're not talking about the key here, we're talking about the complete record. So let me just do that, and there we go. We get 3 records. So yeah, another example of slicing. So pretty cool. Now let's do an example in Kubernetes. So I've already installed Kind. I've got a single node Kubernetes server running on this Ubuntu box, and I've installed an app. I've installed a few apps, but let's have a look at one of them, and it's installed in the namespace Emojivoto. And let's get the pods, and there you go, they're all running and been running for a couple of hours. Actually, I did this originally 6 days ago, so let's have a look. The reason, by the way, they've only been running for a few hours is because I shut down the server and then started it again, but it does remember when they were first the original age, so that's great. So what you're looking at when I ran that command, by the way, this table with only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different fields, there's a lot more behind the get pod command than simply 5 fields. 5 fields is just what you get as an operator. There's a whole ton of information. So let's replay that command. But this time, I'm going to put in json. And you just get an insane amount of information. Insane. Remember, we're interacting with the Kubernetes API server, and it contains a lot of data. So you can see that just simply running without the json, you're getting hardly anything. There's actually a lot more accessible. We're going to get to some of that data now. So let me just clear the screen and go back to the top. We'll run that again, but this time we're going to pipe this through JQ. And we're going to say JQ, we'll put the single quotes in there to start with. We're going to say under items, which is an array, I want status. And this is very common, actually. And you're probably thinking, well, we're going to zero in and get some quite specific information. But you'd be surprised, because if I press enter now, there's still a ton of information under here. But nevertheless, this is all the status information. So there's still a lot there. Let's clear this screen again. So we got a lot out of here. Let's drill down. Not into status, but let's drill down into something else. So I'm just going to go back to the single quotes. And actually, we are going to go back into items, but instead of status, we're now going to go into spec. Let me show you what we get. And again, we're getting a lot of other interesting information. Something that we could do, for example, is go into node name, and that will show us for all of the different pods which nodes they're running on. Now remember, I said that this is a single node, so as it happens the node is called kind control plane and the pods are running all on that same single node. And I can prove that to you by doing get nodes, and you see we only have one. But if I was running this as I should be on several nodes, then we would get all the different nodes. So that is pretty cool. Let me show you a couple of, just to finish with, a couple of really great commands, and I'm going to copy and paste these because they're so big. But this just gives you an idea of the kind of things that you can do. So if you want to find out the total RAM of your nodes, and you can actually run kubectl, get your nodes from the JSON data, use JQ and get raw under items. I want to sort by capacity of memory. So let's have a look at this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back. I'm going to paste this in. And there you go. We get the name of the node, kind control plane, and we get this. And this basically means 8 gig of RAM. So pretty cool. That info is there, just waiting to be extracted. Now here's another one. We want to know all the nodes and also the number of pods on each node. So it's going to get pods JSON across all namespaces, and it's going to look under items, which is where we were earlier, and it's going to get all the pods, but it's going to group them by the node name. And some other interesting stuff here. Oh yeah, it's performing a count. Sort by the count as well, so show the most overloaded nodes first. Now in our case we've only got one node, but still it's going to be interesting to see what we get. So let's clear the screen. And there you go, it come back with no name, kind control plane, which has 20 pods on it. That's more than we saw earlier because this time it's under all namespaces. But you can see just how powerful it is to use JQ. So let me just leave you one more thing and just go back to this web browser. And yeah, go here, check out the manual, start playing with it, start seeing what other people are doing. I also recommend this, which is Awesome JQ. It's a curated list of everything to do with JQ. So much stuff on here. You can see different implementations and tools that people have used. They've used JQ to build even another tool like a wrapper. All kinds of libraries, external libraries. It's just insane what people have done. It all started with JQ. People have created all these libraries and extensions, and yeah, even podcasts and presentations. So it's incredible what JQ can be used for. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please see my other videos as well. Join me for this journey, building this channel out. It's just the beginning, and I hope you really want more. Please comment on this video too, and thank you again for watching. Take care. Goodbye.